Welcome everybody. We are checking in on our ecosystem. We added a trumpet pitcher to the mix. This is a carnivorous plant we just picked up. And we've got a couple of other, like maybe a sundew I believe we ordered, and a couple other things, but I want to show you these aggregates that a friend of ours sent to us, Mask Creations. You can check him out on Instagram. But these are just amazing aggregates from a quarry. And I forget the name of the quarry, but I don't think it really matters. These things are just beautiful. Look at the colors, look at the purples. You can see it. And then we've got one over here, looks like a lemon slice. That's unbelievable. I just love that. How nature is just, you can see literally an orange peel in that. Pretty neat. Get these here. This one's really cool. System as a whole is looking really good this morning. You can really see the algae is starting to let up a little bit. We're starting to get some of those grasses. See, that's what we're looking for. Those grasses popping up along the edge of the creek. And those are roots that we need in the creek system to clean and remove all those, nitrates and ammonia, everything that's harmful for fish and wildlife and everything in our pond here. Those roots will clean that water as it's flowing through, just like a natural system would. We just need to give it a lot of time. It just takes time. So these things are going to happen in stages. So the algae bloom is the first thing that's going to come. We had a ton of, everything that's in this, I brought in from outdoors. So, it's already rich in life. I did not, go to, Lowe's and pop the sand out of a bag and put it in here. That's not how this happened. I went down to the reservoir here, a freshwater reservoir, and we have a little creek that runs down through there. And all this sand and silt that you see in organic matter that I've used in the creek, I cleaned before and basically composted it. So I laid it out, spread it out all over my asphalt driveway, let the sun cook it during the summertime for at least a month. You can see the color change, like that organic matter will dry up. That organic matter that really smells like a swamp, all that will dry up, and you will be left with clean organic matter along with your sand, silt, and clay. And then we want to remove the organic matter from the sand, silt, and clay. So we just shovel it all into a wheelbarrow, mix pea gravel in with it, and then use a water hose to separate the organic matter from the sand, silt, and clay. So all the organic matter will float up, all the sand, silt, and clay will float down, and then you just dump out your wheelbarrow and you're left with clean sand, silt, and clay. That is what goes in the bottom of the creek. And then as we come up the creek and we wrap that sand, silt, and clay over the creek wall, and then we lay moss on top of that. And what that does is that organic matter slowly creeps down into that sand, silt, and clay. It wicks water up and it keeps the moss super wet and moist. It also brings that sand, silt, and clay over into the soil mix, where that organic matter will then wick that creek water all the way up into the bed to where the plants can get to it. And then microbiology takes over from there. And what happens, like, the cool thing is, what I don't really know is what's happening in this section here. So this section is I know kind of what's going on in the soil. I mean, to an extent, the basics. But what I don't really know is how the interaction is going to take place from this sand, silt, and clay, the moss, and then it connecting to the soil. This part here is a mystery. I know it wicks a ton of water, but the biology that's going on, I mean, you can just see how healthy the moss is. So moss, I've learned a lot about moss. Moss doesn't have roots. So moss just are spores. So these little strains will pop up and produce spores, and that's how moss spreads itself around. But moss will not wick water. A lot of people think that the moss is what's wicking the water. The moss does not wick water. It's the sand, silt, clay, and organic matter. So it's the organic matter in the sand and silt and clay that is wicking the water up. So if you get the mixture right, here's some right here. If you get this mixture right, this is all sand and silt, but it's you see the brown and black, that's the organic matter in that sand, silt, and clay. So once you get that mixture right, you can put it along the edge, sprinkle it along the edge, pack it in, and that organic matter will wick water all the way up to the moss, keep the moss super moist all the time, allows the other plants to take root in the sand and silt underneath the moss, in turn giving the moss a root structure like the fern and all the other things, connecting everything together. And it's just an that's how the ecosystem on this creek edge is actually wicking water. So it's nature at its finest. It's how I was observing the creek down at the bottom of my hill here on my property. I was just sitting down there and I was looking at it and I was like, how does this moss stay so wet? And after learning, it doesn't have roots. So I mean, it's not wicking water. I'm like, how is it doing? How's it getting water? And it's pulling water from the air. So it's a condensation, but it's also down there in certain areas, it was wicking water from the creek through the sand and silt and clay and the organic matter in the sand and silt. So once I got the mixture right, it was on. Once we get those grasses growing and we get a good root system going in that sand, silt, and clay along the edge of that creek, it will really, and hopefully be a self-sustaining ecosystem where I'm not watering anything right now. I don't have to. If I were to just go watering the soil right now, it would throw everything out of balance. That's not how this works. It's basically watering itself. It's wicking that water up into these beds. So you notice that I don't have a lot of moss on this side, whereas I do on that. I had it stretched all along the whole way. That was just too much. It was wicking too much water, and we were getting water in our trap hole here. So everything slopes down to this trap hole, which if I do have too much water, I'll know it by looking down in there, because that will fill up with water. And that tells me that I'm wicking way too much water over the edge of the creek. and we need to remove some of the sand and silt. So right now we just turned the lights on in here. It's been about an hour. 70% humidity, it's 70 degrees. I do have the dehu off right now because I'm videoing. It's loud and just interrupts the video a little bit, but we'll turn it back on. It usually hovers around 63, 64 with the dehu on. You can see on this one we're at 68, 68, and over there it's 70 and 70, so we're close. As the temperature rises, like I said, we just walked in here. Lights just came on, so it'll get up to about 73, 74, and the humidity will be down to about 63, 64. So we'll be back to good. Turn the dehu on there. We got our Monstera, excuse me. I don't know if we're going to keep it here or not. We might move it over to that side. It gets a little bit more light over there. But we're going to incorporate these long roots that we've got. We're going to repot it, of course, and then we're going to stretch these roots out along the creek, and some of them put in the pond here. We haven't really figured it out, but we got all our wires cleaned up. Put all our wires up underneath this table here. Got everything cleaned up so we don't have a mess of wires hanging out all over the floor anymore. So let's just do a quick walk around. Well, I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.